We are on Parsha number 3. The first Torah portion, Bereshit, you could say, is the origin story of the creation of the whole world. The second Torah portion, Noach, contains not only the story of the flood, but the Tower of Babel, which you could call the origin story for how different cultures and languages and people existed. And now we come to our third, Lech Lecha, and this is the origin story of the Jewish people. God calls Abraham, Lech Lecha, leave your land, your birthplace, your father's house, and travel to a place that I will show you. And when Abraham and Sarah do this, they cross over the river Euphrates. They go from being at home to becoming strangers. And it is there that they are called Ivrim, which I talked about a little at the holidays, which means those who cross over or boundary crossers. And that is when God promises them, I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. But soon after this promise of being a great nation, Abraham starts to doubt, and for good reason. Abraham was already 75 years old when God called to him in the first place. And as the years pass, and he and Sarah are not getting any younger, he starts to despair about how he could possibly become a great nation when he doesn't even have a single heir. So he calls out to God in this moment of doubt. God reassures him, but not with words. Instead, he invites Abraham to go outside. Look toward heaven, God says, and count the stars. Now imagine Abraham under the expanse of a vast, dark night sky, counting the stars, knowing that his descendants will be just as numerous. And it says that Abraham ha'amin ba'Adonai, that Abraham trusted in God from that moment on. That is the very first time that word emunah, which we translate as trust or faith, ever appears in the Torah. Now, it's significant that what prompted that sense of emunah, of trust in God, was an encounter with one of God's greatest masterpieces, the night sky. So often, when it comes to matters of the spirit or emotion or faith, words are not sufficient. Art, nature, beauty, that is what opens our heart and our soul and helps us understand and see things when words fail us. This is why we thought it would be kind of an amazing thing to kick off this initiative where we want to really embrace this covenantal promise of Shabbat. This initiative we are calling Get Inspired, Get Connected, Get Shabbat, by commissioning an artist and our member, Nell Breyer, to create this beautiful installation, which she calls Where Lines Converge. Now, I did see Nell, so I know she's here now. Will you wave, Nell? I won't put you on the spot more than that, but there she is over there sitting next to my husband, Jacob. Full disclosure, Nell went to college with me and Jacob also, so we've known her a very long time. At the risk of trying to explain something with words that is not supposed to be explained with words, I'm going to use a few words because I'm still a rabbi. So here we go. A few reflections on this installation and how it connects to our Parsha and this Shabbat initiative. So you might first notice that there are 10 oculuses above us, and around each one there are now 10 strings. At the end of each string is something called a plumb bob. I've never heard of that before, but apparently a plumb bob is an ancient building tool dating back to Babylonian times, maybe earlier. In fact, it's even referenced several times in the Torah. In the book of Amos, God says, "Look, I am setting a plumb line among my people Israel. I will spare them no longer." Basically, God is saying that my plumb line, that is on the end of a plumb bob, is the moral standard. It is an expression of truth that is like gravity. It is completely objective. It is not something that can be altered. The prophet Isaiah also speaks about God as a builder who uses a plumb line to measure justice. Quote, I will make justice the measuring line and righteousness the plumb line. So this installation, with its soaring verticality, reminds us of God's justice, which is as true as gravity, as inescapable as gravity, and that there is a moral center, that we should be moved to be more just, to serve something higher than ourselves. Get inspired. That's the first piece. Now here's another interesting thing. If you stand under one of the oculi, really right there, and look up, which you'll do after services, I hope. And by the way, we do have pictures for live streamers so that you can see what this looks like if you're not in the room. When you look up at it, something magical happens. You know that these lines are parallel. These strings are all parallel to each other. But when you look straight up from the very middle, up the bottom of it, it looks as if all the strings converge. In fact, it looks like they create a star, radiating light. So not only do these strings draw our attention to the vertical space of the sanctuary, doesn't it look so much taller when you look up at the strings than you usually think? But this installation calls us forward, like God's call to Abraham to look up and see the stars, which is exactly what you see if you look up at our ceiling. Did you know that? So there, of course, are actually stars in the blue ceiling, but also, as I said, these parallel strings magically become stars when you stand right underneath them. Now, this installation, where lines converge, express the idea that community is simultaneously made up of separate individuals, each of us like a different string, but that we all converge eventually. Now, you might say to yourself, that's just an optical illusion. But actually, there are physicists who say that all lines will eventually converge at infinity. Take that in for a moment. So, here we are. We are simultaneously separate beings, but when it comes to the very end of infinity, we will all meet up and we are all going to realize we are all one, part of one radiant light. So, get connected. Now, I like to find meaning and layers in just about everything, but I can hear Nell's voice in my ear because she would say, Angela, this art, it's nice that you're making all these connections, but this art is not about describing something else, like righteousness or plumb lines and justice or community or even God's covenant with Abraham and Sarah and the stars. This art just is. It's not an object. It should be an experience. It's like choreography. It's ephemeral and dynamic, and your experience of it changes with it wherever you are, and its value is intrinsic, and then it will be gone. Now, it's hard for me to stop droshing on the art because as a rabbi, I try to make a symbol out of everything, but then it hit me that perhaps the most powerful message of this installation is the same as the most powerful message of this Torah portion, namely, be a blessing. This has always been a very hard concept to absorb. It's much easier to instruct people to give blessings to other people, or perhaps learn how to receive blessings. But what does it mean to be a blessing? Perhaps this art can help us understand this charge viscerally. To be a blessing means that we are worthy and precious and valued, not because of anything we do, not for being an object of beauty or a symbol of something important beyond us, or for anything we've accomplished, but just for being. Judaism understands how hard it is for us to appreciate that we each are a blessing, just for existing. So God gave us the gift of Shabbat, a sanctuary in time when we are commanded that we cannot do more or be more or build stuff or improve stuff. Shabbat is when we realize that we are enough, that our lives are the blessing. You shall be a blessing. That might be the essence of what Shabbat is here to teach us. And I'm not sure that I could fully express it with words or command you to do it. You have to actually just experience Shabbat. And that's why I hope that all of us will take a moment, not just today, to experience this beautiful installation which helps inspire and connect us and feel Shabbat, but to really deepen our experience of Shabbat this whole year. I'm not going to make this the commercial for our Get Shabbat initiative, but just know that look in your weekly, and we have many enormous and small Shabbat events that are coming up for us to deepen our engagement with Shabbat. Now, since I can't express this all in words, I just want to take a moment and say, please come and walk through the sanctuary at your own time. We have Wednesdays, we open it up. Be here, come here a little early on a Friday night. Stay after and look up at it. And as you do, perhaps you will also understand that our lives are ephemeral and temporary, and that we are each like one of these individual strings, standing alone, but at some point in eternity, we will all converge. We will all become part of the one. And that each one of us has been given a covenantal promise. So take a moment, look up, count the stars. You might find that your faith is renewed, and most of all, that you are a blessing. Every single one of you. Shabbat Shalom.